But for the meantime, several U.S. cities have been gripped by protests against the controversial acquittal of George Zimmerman.
Mostly peaceful demonstrations Sunday followed the not guilty verdict in the George Zimmerman case, which has reignited the debate about race throughout the nation.
Now, my reaction to the ruling was definitely disappointment. As I said, the second-degree murder charge didn't surprise me because of the fact that there was no proof of ill intent. But the fact that he will face absolutely no consequences for what happened that night makes me extremely uneasy because of the message that it sends to the country. Essentially, Trayvon Martin was walking through a neighborhood by himself. He wasn't looking for trouble. He went to a local 7-Eleven to buy a snack, and then he was going to go back to his father's home to watch a basketball game. And it blows my mind that George Zimmerman decided to follow him because he thought he was suspicious. And that's where the racial component of this comes in. Why did George Zimmerman find him suspicious? I mean, there are Fox News pundits that said, oh, well, Trayvon Martin was wearing a hoodie. And then you see pictures of what Trayvon Martin looked like on that night. So I don't even know what led George Zimmerman to follow him in the manner in which he did. But that's what really made me question George Zimmerman's innocence, because he followed Trayvon Martin. He refused to stop following Trayvon Martin after the dispatcher told him to stop. And I don't know what Trayvon Martin was supposed to do in that situation. I can say as a woman, if I'm walking through a neighborhood by myself and there's someone following me and I feel threatened, I'm probably going to want to either run away, and if I can't run away, I'm probably going to want to retaliate in some way. So I try to put myself in Trayvon Martin's shoes in that situation, and I don't know what I would do exactly, but if you're feeling threatened by someone, you have the right to defend yourself. And I really feel like that's what Trayvon Martin was doing. There was this strange dude following him around the neighborhood. He didn't know what to do, and he probably responded in a violent way. And that eventually led to his death, which is so utterly sad.
To be honest with you, I'm outraged because when he called the police dispatcher to report a man in a hood running around the neighborhood, the police dispatcher told him, do not follow him, sir. He should follow that order and not follow him. His job is a watchman, not a law enforcement officer.
Here for justice. I feel like that a child was gunned down, and the state of Florida has let 2 child murderers set free. So there is no justice. And if you make it racial, then you feel that it's just us and no justice at all, just us. So that's why we're here today for all the Trayvon Martins throughout the United States and all over the world.
I want to start out by saying my heart and my condolences go out to the Martin family, because you lost your wonderful child. It was taken from you by a bastard who walked free, who I believe should be in jail right now getting fucked by somebody who's been planning on fucking him ever since they've been watching the trial. I believe he should be up under the jail. But what I want to do in this video, I want to reach out to all the blacks out there that think it's cool and think it's time to start rioting and start fighting and start fucking up people from the other race. That is stupid, right? You ain't doing nothing at all. Why are you guys walking around here shocked like the justice system ever worked in our favor? It's never worked in our favor, okay?
We're very concerned and very hurt and very disappointed at this point, but we know in the end God will prevail and justice will be served, and we're just keep everybody in their prayers.
Trayvon Martin could have been my son! 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 Trayvon Martin could have been my son!
And I saw the father, I was right behind him when he was talking, and his mom and the father were crying, and it's just, they're a strong family though. Strong family.
They loving this.
They need this type of support.
This has really been the straw that broke the camel's back. Although, I mean, we've been in a post-Troy Davis world. I think that it's becoming more and more apparent to everybody that this blatant murder, the racist murder that's been happening beneath the surface is now being pushed up to the front of society. I think that's why we saw so many people turn out today here here because people understand, I think, finally, that they're not alone. I think it's not just, I think it's an awakening, but I think it's more than a waking up. I think it's a realizing and a rebuilding of people's sense of like, yes, it's right to stand up and fight, and we can do this, and we're on the right side of justice.
A whole bunch of corrupted cops supposedly doing their job, and a whole bunch of people trying to fight for freedom and peace and true democracy. My point of view about the cops, they need to quit their jobs and get a new job. About the people fighting for true democracy, keep on working.
For Trayvon Martin and justice. That man didn't have no reason to kill him. He just he got his cousin some Skittles, and he got his own self IC, so he was walking home. And he screamed it for help. They said he missed it the first time, and he screamed, so why nobody help?
We are going to make sure that Trayvon Martin is not going to be forgotten.
It's time that we let this so-called 1% know that we're tired and we're not going to stand for it anymore. And what you see is just going to continue to grow, not just here, but across the United States. I am Malice Green. I am Oscar Grant. I am Derek Jones. I am Trayvon Martin. I am Kenneth Harding. I am James Riviere. I am all those who have been murdered, and I am my brother's keeper, and I will speak to that issue.
And it's terrifying that I now have to go and have this conversation with her about being profiled and keeping her safe and helping her understand what she has to do to keep herself safe against other people and the police department.
I'm here especially for my 4th grade students and for my brother who is 13 years old, who is someone that definitely goes through racial profiling on an everyday basis. And I just feel that, you know, the case was definitely unfair. I think that the case happened, I think that the trial happened simply because they wanted to say, okay, we're going to give you guys a trial, but there wasn't any justice served with the trial. And I just believe that Trayvon Martin had his right to defend himself, and he felt that if he felt that he was being attacked, then he had every need to defend himself against George Zimmerman.
They are Trayvon Martin.
In New York and other cities across the country, protesters voiced their frustration Sunday about the verdict in the murder trial of George Zimmerman.
He is guilty of killing a young man for no reason. And so it's really hard to hear that someone has said that he is not guilty of that.
So, we know Big Zimmerman was found not guilty for Trayvon Martin murder. And we all know that you know, there was no justice for Trayvon Martin.
Not guilty. Man, what kind of motherfucking world we living in, man? Fuck kind of world is this, man?
I heard someone say there's a Trayvon Martin in every city in every state of this country.
And it is true. It is. It is a Trayvon Martin in every city, every part of the country. We're all Trayvon Martin. You suspect. So I guess you're Trayvon Martin in the wrong neighborhood.
24-year-old public school teacher Adriana Ebron sees local parallels in the acquittal of George Zimmerman in Florida. She cites the recent trial of Baltimore County police officer James Laborde, who was accused of choking to death unarmed 17-year-old Christopher Brown.
I definitely think in Baltimore, for example, just back in this February, actually, a young man was choked to death in Baltimore County by a police officer. The case, the court case, actually was a couple weeks ago, and the police officer was let off innocent. And the police officer that killed him was actually off duty, but he did nothing. He didn't call 911. He didn't try to resuscitate him, and so that's just one of many examples.
Many parents took their children to the action, including this Baltimore resident who did not want to be named.
It's kind of a slap in the face. And the unfortunate thing is, even though Trayvon brought it to light, I've heard that it happens to numerous black boys across this country in many different cities and many different states. And as a mom, I felt like I really needed to let my voice be heard. That as a mother of black boys, it's not okay to tolerate that and to allow that type of an injustice to be committed against a son, someone's grandson, and allow that individual to get away with it. That's just not what this country is about.
I have my own opinions about everything. I say like the stand your ground rule. I have a problem with it, because if you can manufacture something, and I'm not talking about the case now, but if I could come up to you and manufacture a situation, and then be able to get away with it, I think that rule or that law it needs to be addressed, because that could be to anybody. That could be your mom, that could be your father, that could be your kids, cousins, friends, anybody.
Mic check! Mic check! Mic check! Mic check! Mic check! Mic check! I don't know about you, but I'm motherfucking angry! I'm motherfucking angry! I don't know about you! I don't know about you! But I want justice! I want justice! I want justice! I want justice! Trayvon Martin! Trayvon Martin! Trayvon Martin! Trayvon Martin!
A special edition of 2020. George Zimmerman found not guilty in the murder of Trayvon Martin, and this tweet moments ago from Trayvon Martin's mother. Lord, during my darkest hour, I lean on you. You are all that I have. At the end of the day, God is still in control. Thank you all for your prayers and support. I will love you forever, Trayvon, in the name of Jesus.
I am Trayvon! I am Trayvon! I am Trayvon!
It's time now to clear the air and to compound the tragedy of Trayvon Martin. It feels as though some people are now trying to do to him in death what George Zimmerman apparently did to him in life, attributing to this young man a character and a personality that they could not possibly know. And yet they persist in imposing upon his slight young frame an identity that implies criminality, juvenile delinquency, and the all-round characteristics of a troublemaker. This is not only deeply offensive to his family, but also a gross form of character assassination upon a child, a dead child. Stories are now being carefully fed to certain sections of the media that Trayvon was suspended from school after his bag was found to contain marijuana residue, that he once wrote graffiti on school grounds. Wow! That he was part of a stolen jewellery investigation on school grounds that resulted in no charges. And, to top it all, the greatest act of social criminality for a kid of colour, that he may have worn gold teeth. Wow, call the police. Even if these petty incidents were true, what on earth do they have to do with the fact that George Zimmerman shot and killed him? But let's compare Trayvon Martin with the history of another man. Only this one committed some real offences, and all of them after his 17th birthday. When this individual was 20, he was arrested for disorderly conduct after he got drunk and stole a Christmas wreath from a hotel. So that's drunk, disorderly and theft. Charges were later dropped. When he was 26, he took out his 16-year-old brother on an underage drinking spree. He lost control of his car, hitting a garbage can, but continued driving. When he was 30, he was arrested and found guilty of driving under the influence of alcohol. His driving licence was suspended for 2 years, even though his friends tried to say that it was for just 30 days. Now, does this brief history make him a social wretch, a criminal with no regard for other road users, a drunk, a disgraceful influence upon young people, including his own 16-year-old brother? What do you call him? Scum of the earth? Hoodlum? Criminal? In fact, America ended up calling him the 43rd President of the United States, George W. Bush. But that's not what they're calling Trayvon Martin. Instead, the brief lifestyle of this young man is now on trial. There's now a full-scale character assassination, suggesting that Trayvon Martin deserved his fate, that he even provoked his own death. But while you may be tempted to divert your attention away from what really happened, here are the only 3 facts that really matter. First, a man with a gun chose to pursue an unarmed teenager who'd done nothing wrong. Second, the man with the gun chose to initiate a confrontation with the teenager after he was advised not to. Third, as a result of the confrontation, the man with the gun shot the teenager to death. And when you focus on the facts, it's not the colour of his teeth that keep coming back to haunt you. It's the colour of his skin.